I will follow. Though no one join me, still I will follow. Though no one join me, still I will follow. No turning back, no turning back. The world behind me, the cross before me. The world behind me, the cross before me. The world behind me, the cross before me. No turning back, no turning back. And so we are going into in verses 1 through 13. Is the first phase that we look at Daniel chapter 2 tonight. King Nebuchadnezzar received a disturbing dream from God. So I guess when you read in your psalm, he had a dream. It was a disturbing dream. He actually panicked. You know, he actually panicked because what did I do there? Here. Hold on there. Alright, he panicked because he could not remember it. Nebuchadnezzar then called all the wise men of Babylon, called them in together to tell him the dream and the interpretation of the dream. The wise men of Babylon had to confess that they could not tell the king his dream, nor could they therefore provide any interpretation. No man could do what the king required, only God could reveal the dream and the interpretation. So what the king was so furious with the wise men inability to help him that he sent forth a decree to destroy them all. So here you have, he got a dream, got up in the middle of the night, dream disturbed him, he can't sleep again. He say, wow, I got the magicians here, I got wise men here, let me call them up together. So he called them together, they could not help him. And so God in his wisdom created a situation to reveal the futility of the Babylonian gods. In a matter of fact, what he's trying to say that the Babylonian gods are useless, they're not fruitful. But how do they know that? They think they're doing something good. They're worshiping gold and worshiping images and hidden practices. And they think that they're doing things that are good. So God come up with a plan, in other words, so that he will unmask the limitations of Babylonian wisdom. It was a perfect time to reveal himself to the king as the only true God. So that is the highlight from verses 1 to 13. So what happened in verses 1 to 13? A dream. Couldn't identify, can't remember, doesn't know what it meant. Calling the wise men to help him, they seem to be baffled themselves, they cannot help. So let's see what verse 14 to 30 say. So they're calling now. We're going to review verse 13, 14 to 30. Daniel requests time to pray. So when Daniel was brought before the king, he did not demand any details about the dream, but he only requested time to what? Pray. Daniel knew that God was more than able to reveal to him the king's dream. So here Daniel going before the king. All the magicians and everyone else cannot help. But here Daniel going before the king, and what happened? Daniel, the first thing when the king said, look, I got a dream, I'm disturbed. I don't understand, I need help. You have to give me the meaning, interpretation, and bring back the dream to memory to me. Daniel said, well, look, all right, I need time. I need time to what? To pray. So Daniel decided to go and pray to who? The God of heaven, right? In preparation for Daniel's revelation, Daniel and his friends, they fasted and prayed. That's very important. critical situation. That's so critical. Remember what the King Nebuchadnezzar did. He said, if you cannot give him the dream, he's going to destroy you. So that's critical. So this guy is going before the king, and if he doesn't know what he's going to tell the king, then he's going to die. So he said, look, this is serious business. I need time to pray. So he gathered his friends, and they decided they're going to fast and pray. While not fasting is a chance to empty themselves of all kind of meals, etc., probably just drinking water. And they decided they're going to use that time so that the mind could be all clear and they can pray. After God showed them the dream, they rejoiced in the Lord for the faithfulness and his goodness. So Daniel respectfully stood before the king and revealed to him the dream and its interpretation. So what happened? After they prayed, for a few days, God revealed to them the dream, what the king had. And he also gave them the interpretation of the dream. Right? He could have taken all and revealed to him the dream and its interpretation. He could not have taken all the credit for himself. And humiliated the wise men of Babylon. But he did neither. Instead, he reminded the king that none of these wise men were able to reveal the king his dream and the interpretation. So Daniel then pointed to God of heaven as the only one who can reveal secrets. So now Daniel was going with the interpretation, and there he was. He could have gone in and said, hey, king, these guys you have there are no good. You need to kill this faithful man. I got the answer for you. I'm the only one who knows it. You don't need this man. But that is not what he did. He said, king, these men couldn't help you. He said, king, only one person could help you. Is the God of heaven who reveals secrets. So by Daniel putting it that way to the king realized destroying this man is useless because they couldn't help him. So the humble spirit of Daniel increased his influence with others. Men could see that he had a connection with God and they respected him for that. So that takes us to that part of the up to verse 30, and we saw what happened. What we saw happen, Daniel, he did what? He prayed, then he fasted. He got his friends together. Pray, fasted. They got the interpretation, they got the dream. They went back, went to the king, did not make the others feel as though, well, they should die, but he let the king know what they men couldn't help you. Only God in heaven could have helped you. That's why we pray to him and get him to help. So that was understood there. So it looked like Daniel has some favor with the other men, favor with the king, and it looked like the king is starting to get getting a little easy, starting to get some answers. All right, so the dream now. So we go to the dream. The king saw in his dream a great image made up of 4 different metals. 4 different metals, okay? So you got to follow. If you follow in your in the book as I go along, you're going to realize that we talk 31 to 45. You're going to realize the dream. We are talking about the great image made up of 4 different metals. There was the head of what? Gold. The chest and the arms of silver, a belly and a thighs of brass, and a leg of iron. These 4 different metals represented the chronological succession of world empires beginning with Babylon. So Daniel told the king of Babylon that his kingdom represented the head of gold. So here we are. So if Daniel's kingdom was represented by the head of gold, Then from the gold we went to silver, am I right? So therefore there must be another kingdom coming that's going to be represented by silver. And then another one coming to be represented by bronze, and another one coming to be represented by iron. So you see, he started to get the understanding, but so when he was told that he was the head of gold, and his kingdom is gold, he feels good. All right, I'm number one. I'm the head of gold. Wow. He feels good. But then Daniel continued to say, however, a kingdom of silver will follow. What? So what does that mean? I am the head of gold today, but a kingdom of silver is coming? So you know what that means. That means he going to lose his throne, right? Then there will be a kingdom of brass, followed by a kingdom of iron that will crush and devour. We know historically that the Medes and the Persians defeated the Babylonians in 539 BC. The book of Daniel itself identified this historical fact. So in Daniel chapter 5, verse 30 and 31, that's important. Just go to Daniel 5 and read verse 30 and 31, and you're going to see what is coming very, very clear here. So what do we have here? Daniel chapter 5, verses 30 and 31. What did it say?
That the very night that Caesar was king of the kingdom, being about 62 years old.
They look like the Medes and the Persians took over from Babylon, from King Nebuchadnezzar. They were able to overthrow him. All right, we're going to go back there now and follow. And were turned defeated by the Greeks in 331. So the next one follow was the Greeks. That's why they're called Greece. All right, in 331. And they became the empire of brass. So we had the head of gold, Babylon. Silver was Medes and Persian. And now we have bronze, which is what? Greece, right? So now we're going, amazing, the book of Daniel predicted that the fall of the Medes and Persians by the Greeks before the Grecian Empire was even a world contender. So according to Daniel chapter 8 and verse 3 to 8 and chapter 20 and verse 22, the Bible predicted long before Greece was an empire that the Grecian Empire will come up and will overthrow and take over and be a contender in the world stage. So, and therefore the king, Cyrus, was mentioned 500 years before he was born. They was told that this man is the man that's going to rule. Isn't that awesome? That is the Bible, the prophecies of the Bible is sure. So let's look at the historical identifies Rome as a fourth power. Empire that defeated the Greeks in 168 BC. So what came along, Rome defeated the Greeks in 168 BC. So, however, the iron legs of Rome will itself disintegrate into 10 smaller kingdoms by AD 476. Now you remember, when you read the kingdoms come down, when you read to iron, then they went on, they tell you the feet is of iron and clay, and then they talk about the 10 toes, right? So one had to understand that this whole prophecy is giving you from Babylon to when Jesus comes. When you read about a stone with that hand that smote the mountain, right? And that actually is the coming of Christ. So from Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar, all the way down to the coming of Christ, that is what Daniel chapter 2, the prophecy, is telling us. But we're trying to unpack it here a little bit so we get to understand. So the first kingdom is the kingdom of Babylon, and that was the head of what? Gold. The second kingdom is the kingdom of the Medes and Persian, and that was what? The silver. And the third kingdom was the Grecian kingdom, and that was bronze. And then the fourth kingdom is of iron, and that was Rome. The fourth kingdom is who? Rome. The iron legs of Rome will itself disintegrate into 10 smaller kingdoms by AD 476. The feet with 10 toes of iron and potter's clay could replace it. So what do we have? We have now a head of gold, chest silver, thighs bronze, leg iron, feet iron and clay, and then 10 toes, right? 10 kingdoms. So what we have in here is replacing. We have replacements taking place. So we have the head of gold replaces by Medo-Persia silver. Then we have Greece replacing Medo-Persia, and then we have Rome replacing Greece, and then we have the 10 toes replacing, but have some iron, because it says that is iron and what? Clay. And the legs was of what? Iron. So if the legs was of iron, and that was Rome, and the feet is iron and clay, that means some of Rome is down in the feet. You see where the prophecy is going. So what we actually have is Rome playing a part in the world from its beginning all the way down to the end of time. Rome is not losing his influence, right? But Rome is changing from a pagan Rome to a religious Rome. So that's what we're going to actually come across here. So these 10 smaller kingdoms, which is the 10 toes, were the Anglo-Saxon meaning English. So England was a part of the Roman kingdom at the time. So what do we have? The next one is what? We have 10 smaller kingdom, Anglo-Saxon, English. Then we have the Franks, which is Germany. They are there, right? So we got Germany in play here, right? Now the Franks are the French, sorry. The Alemanni is the Germans. Okay, so the Franks are the French. And then we have the Visigoths, which is the Portuguese. We have the Suevi, which is the Swiss. That is, Switzerland, Portugal, those countries over there. And then we have the Vandals, which is the Spanish. And then we are in North Africa, we had the Lombards and the Ostrogoths. So we had all 10 of these make up the Roman Empire. Because what's going to happen, this Roman Empire is giving away to 10 kingdoms because it will disintegrate, it will break up. It's strong, but it is so strong it is breaking up. And it happened to even break up and get rid of 3 of the kingdoms, 3 of the 10 kingdoms. Well, the Holy, as part of Italy, what have we seen so far? So let's go through that. The head of what? God. The head of God, Babylon. The head of gold, Babylon. That's the type. 605 to 539. All right. Silver and the silver breast and arms, Medo-Persia, 539 to 531. That was the time that they ruled in history. That was when they had controlled the entire world. Brass belly and thighs of Greece. Greece one time ruled the world for a short time. The legs of iron, that is Rome. She ruled from that part of Rome, which goes from 168 BC to 476. In 476 AD, that's when Rome broke up into different kingdoms, 10 kingdoms, and then after that, we're going to get to where the pagan Rome ends and papal Rome take over. Papal Rome ends and Papa Rome and papal Rome take over. All right. Now we go to. Let me go back here a little bit. 10 toes of iron and potter's clay. The breakup of the Roman into 10 smaller kingdoms. There are some varying interpretation in verse 41 to 43 with the iron and clay. But however, what I'm looking at here is as I try to understand with the iron and the clay, I notice that the feet is iron and clay, right? And it says, the Bible said the potter's clay. But did you notice you read about another clay? It's called the Mari clay. So you have, it seems like we have two different clay here. So if you have iron and clay, and then you have iron and clay. So you have, but you have two different type of clay. So it has to be that, let's say it will be up to, well, you know, I will say that, you know, this is something that you could also go and look up yourself, and if you have those dates, you could go on your computer, you could look them up. You're going to see the history of those things, and you're going to see exactly how straightforward and how awesome the Bible is in its prediction. All right. But concerning the gold, the silver, the brass, the iron and legs, there does not seem to be any disagreement that these metal represents the following empires: Babylon, Medo-Persia, Greece, Rome. There are three things that can help us in navigating through this section in Daniel chapter 2, 41 to 43. There is one thing, I call it the history, the parallel vision of Daniel chapter 7. When we get to Daniel chapter 7, we're going to go through, we will see that, but there is a parallel there, which I'm going to touch, which we're going to touch a little bit here tonight too. And 3, there is a spirit of prophecy, and what do we know historically? Now, history does confirm, I should say, the rise and the fall of empires from Babylon to Medo-Persia, to Greece and then Rome. History confirms that. It tells you when Babylon ends, and if you go back in history, if you try to Google it up, you're going to see all those dates going to come up. What I'm giving you here, everything is going to come up. It's going to show you when all the empires come, and all of them came and end. And the Bible didn't just say, okay, a silver going to come and a bronze, but it tells you what bronze is. He told you straight, Babylon is gold. He told you Medo-Persia. He told you the name of the empire that comes. If you look up the name of the empire and the time they rule, you're going to see that the same empire mentioned in the Bible have its history. And by this you can trace it. So history confirms that the Roman Empire fell in 476 AD into 10 smaller kingdoms. That's the 10 toes that we talk about. So the Roman Empire fell in 476, right? The kingdom were made of people groups. Now, there was the Franks, the French, the Alemanni, the Germans, the Anglo-Saxon, the English. There were the 7 other people groups. 3 of these groups or nations were destroyed in the instigation of the papacy. Namely the Hurri and the Vandals and the Ostrogoths. They were all destroyed. In Rome destroyed them, the Hurri in 493 AD, the Vandals in 534, and the Ostrogoths in 538. And after these 3 was destroyed, this is history again, after these 3 was destroyed, the Rome set up what is today called being controlled by the Vatican. So from there, Rome would have gotten the power to direct and lead the world, not only as a religion, but as a political power. So there was Rome ruling the world politically and religiously. So when she go over, she said, look, this is what you do religiously. The priest is going to be doing so. You just have to do this. This is how it's going to be. You don't read no Bible. You will listen to what the priest has to say. So they set up the religious and then they set up the government part of it. So they was directing government based on their religious philosophy. And that's the reason why you have even Sunday worship throughout the world like that. Because they were dictating and directing everything. All of these people groups existed in Europe while Rome still ruled the world. So while Rome was ruling the world, all these little groups that we just mentioned was existing in Europe. Some broke off from Rome sooner than others. But by the time we come to 476, Rome could no longer hold the Western Roman Empire. All right? Together. It was at this time in 476 that the entire Roman Empire had disintegrated into a total of 10 smaller kingdoms. So this is why there are 10 toes of the image that follow the iron legs of Rome. Historically, we are also known that the Church of Rome took over the reins of the Roman Empire in 538 AD. So the Church of Rome take over and start to govern. So Rome was then the government. All right, and today you notice what's happening? Today you notice what's happening? Everywhere the Pope go and he speaks, people listen. Spiritually, he's still governing. He's hoping one day that he's going to get religious leaders to do just what he says. Sooner or later, it's going to happen to him.
So that don't mean he think he's God, does it?
Well, that is what he said.
No, that way it's kind of.
Yeah, he called himself God or not. You know. So these have existed before 538. Yes, we know that. Constantine became empire in 313. So if Constantine became the empire of Rome in 313, so therefore Rome really was ruling. And in 321 is when Emperor made the law of Sunday worship. In 321, Emperor Constantine made the law of Sunday worship. So by the time Rome as a church get to rule the world as a church and state, as a church state, see, a lot of people don't understand the Vatican is a country. They have there's their own government. No government in the world has no say there. That's their government. They have ambassadors. The US have an ambassador to the Vatican. Just like we have an ambassador to France. You see? So it's a country inside of Italy called the Vatican. And so what happened is that they were ruling from since before and making themselves with a highly political Church of Rome. The Church of Rome was entrenched in Roman politics century before they ruled the empire by 538. But she could not rule the empire while Caesar still was ruling the empire. So when the Roman Empire fell in 476, they took over. It will take only about 62 years for the Church of Rome to rule the empire from 538. So what does Daniel chapter 7 teach us? In a brief parallel vision, the rise and fall of the empire clearly identify the same empires in the exact same order. Daniel chapter 2 and Daniel chapter 7. The interpretation is the head of what? Gold, which is the lion. And that is also what? Babylon. The silver breast of arms, bear. So he's now remember the first vision, he used metal. But in the next vision, he used what? Animals. I don't know if you noticed that. He used what? The head of gold is a lion. Then the silver breast and arms is a bear. So it's the same vision, giving you the same description, but instead of using the metals, he's using now beasts. Alright? So he's using beasts. So he's preparing you now to understand the mark of the beast. You see, the Bible have its way of coming down so that you will understand exactly what it's teaching you. Now the brass belly ties leopard is a leopard beast. And that was Greece. We're going to get to, when we get to number 7, legs of iron, the foot, which and the 10 toes, we're talking about, the legs is iron with, you say you got a teeth that was very strong, and so that was Rome. And then the 10 toes of iron and clay, the breakup of Rome, right? All right. The feet of iron and married clay. You read that, the Little Horn Church of Rome. That is the Little Horn Church of Rome. All right. The papacy judgment. The judgment begins in 1844, and the stone cut out the hands means the second coming of Christ. So I want you to notice this vision of Daniel chapter 2 starts from Babylon right down to the coming of Jesus Christ. Right? So there you have to understand that what God is doing, He is trying to let us know where we are living in Earth history and how close we are to His coming. Alright, so what do we find in the Spirit of Prophecy? Say, notice the description of the fall of Rome. After it was described the rise and the fall of the empire from Babylon, Medo Persia, Greece, and Rome, let me quote, the vast empire of Rome crumbled to pieces. And from its ruin rose a mighty power. Okay, so what's that mighty power? The mighty power is what? Rome itself, but that is Rome the church. That is Rome the church. But here you have Rome, the leg, was crumbled to pieces. So what came up is Rome the church. She come up from the 10 toes, from one of the 10 toes. All right. So the Roman Catholic Church, the church boasts of her infallibility and her heredity religion. So she does not mention the 10 toes in the selection, but she described the fall of the Roman Empire as crumbled to pieces. And that is in keeping with what happened according to Bible prophecy. Imagine the United States collapse into 50 smaller kingdoms, with each state becoming its own country. Could we say that the United States has crumbled into pieces? If everyone becomes their own country? Of course. This is how you should understand the 10 toes of iron and the foot of clay. When Rome fell in 476, she was crumbled into pieces, and so the empire had fallen apart. The strength of iron legs of Rome was gone, but Rome still what? Continue as a what? Church state. That is why the feet mix with iron and clay, because Rome continue. So the strength of Rome was gone, and she makes it, Sister White makes very clear that the Roman Catholic Church will rise to power from the ruins of the Roman Empire. So now, notice the command, the comment concerning the feet of the iron mixed with Mary clay this time. Remember, the first you have the potter's clay, right? Now we are the Mary clay. We have come to the time when God's secret work is represented by the feet of the image in which the iron was mixed with the Mary clay. So we come to this place now. So the iron representing who? Rome. See that? So Rome still have its place here. But religiously, she is working her way to get her way into to get others to do what she wants to do. So God has his people, a chosen people, whose discernment must be sanctified, who must not become unholy by laying upon the foundation of wood. Hay are stubble. Every soul who is loyal to the commandments of God will see the distinguishing feature of our faith in the 7-day Sabbath. If the government could honor the Sabbath as God has commanded, it would stand in the strength of God in the defense of the faith once delivered to the saints. But statesmen will uphold the spurious. And that word really is saying that one that is not real. And will mingle their religious faith with the observance of this child of papacy, placing it above the Sabbath which the Lord has sanctified and blessed. So you see what happened and how we have a world today that is moving religiously in a direction that was different to what God has originally planned. And that's why we have to understand for ourselves what we're getting into. Too many people are just going along with the flow and not trying to understand and figure out what exactly God is telling me. Now, sitting apart for men to keep holy as a sign between him and his people to 1,000 generations. So the church mingling of church and statecraft represented by iron and of clay. This union is weakening all power of the church. So this is what happened. When the church and state decide to govern and rule, it weakens the power of the church. Because the church is at a place where it cannot do what God says, because the state is compelling it to do what they want. So the time is going to come when the United States of America, unfortunately, will dictate to the churches the direction they must go. When they're going to make laws to make it clear the direction they want everything to go. So while the 10 toes of iron and the potter's clay represented the breaking up of the Roman Empire into 10 smaller kingdoms, now remember, the Bible says that, you read it, iron and clay, the Bible says they will not what? Cleave together. Meaning they cannot adhere, they cannot stick together. So that's the same way he's saying it's going to happen. Now, all the peace you see they're talking about in Europe, the countries of Europe cannot come together like one. They're going to try. For a long time they have the European Union and everything keep going good and everybody saying there will be another powerhouse. What recently happened? Which one of the countries is pulling out from the European Union? Yeah. England. England is pulling out from the European Union, right? They're going to be gone in probably a year or so. They're putting things together. They're pulling out. So they're going to be a country standing by itself. Who else is going to do it next? You don't know. Germany might just decide to do it. France might decide to do it. They cannot stick one to another. Why they cannot do it? The Bible prophecy says that they cannot do what? Cleave one with another. So it just won't happen. So no matter how hard they try, it just won't happen. Another thing the Bible prophecy says that when men come together and they start talking about peace, the Bible says then sudden destruction come upon them. What are we talking today? Everybody's talking about great peace on the Korean Peninsula and a great peace for the world. And the president is going to meet with Kim and they're going to work out a big peace plan and everybody go.
Amen.
Those things and them is only old talk for a season. It's not happening. The world is break up. They cannot mend it. These politicians and government cannot fix the world problem.
That's right.
They out of control for themselves.
Amen.
The man who is at the top trying to fix the problem, they themselves is a mess.
Big problem. Amen.
How could a mess fix a mess?
Amen.
It can't work. It takes a perfect God to fix a mess.
Amen.
So they are just wasting the time.
Amen.
So look, we had a nice Iranian deal, ain't it?
Amen.
And we had some nice times coming when we had the Iranians, everybody saying is complying. And what happened now? Today,
United States don't
pull away from the treaty. So now, what you have now again, you're going to have a mess.
Amen.
A mess cannot fix a mess.
Amen.
It takes a perfect God to fix a mess. So those politicians that are there trying to say they're trying to fix everything and they're talking about peace, they doesn't have the ability to do it. They just don't know what they're doing. They are a mess and they cannot fix a mess.
Suppose they put God in there somewhere. They'll be able to fix it in, wouldn't they?
Well, God is the one to fix it, but that is what this Daniel chapter 2 prophecy is telling you.
So they need to follow God.
He's telling you, exactly, he's telling you that God is going to fix it. And God have a plan to fix it.
Okay.
And what did God do? He revealed the plan to Daniel,
Okay.
and he shows you how the government, how everything is going to come down and down and down to the edges. And he's telling you right where you are now, and then he's going to fix it eventually.
Amen.
All right? So let's look at this. So what do we have? The papacy gaining control of the empire. Hence the toes of iron and potter's clay is mentioned first. Then the feet of iron mixed with marble clay follow. A history proves that the breakup of the Roman Empire in 476 preceded the Church of Rome gaining the ruins of government by 538. Consider the following: Daniel chapter 2, 40 and 43, Roman Empire 168, 476. And the fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron. For as much as it breaketh into pieces, subdueth all things. And as iron that breaketh all things, shall it break in pieces and bruises. So that same kingdom that was so strong, that same kingdom called Rome, that was like the fist of the world, what happened to it? It broke in pieces. Because the Bible says it's going to happen, and it did happen. And whereas you saw the feet of 10 toes break up of Rome, part of potter clay, not miracle, and part of iron, the kingdom shall be divided into 10 smaller kingdoms. So the Church of Rome, from 538, when the Church of Rome started to rule, 538 AD to the second coming of Jesus Christ, is going to remain with its influence, and that's why the Pope still has such strong influence on the world. But there shall be in it the strength of iron after the Roman Empire. This integrating into 10 smaller kingdoms. Then comes the Church of Rome to rule the Roman Empire with strength of iron. For as much as thou sighest the iron mixed with clay, not potter's clay. In verse 41, it will seem clearly to me that there is a distinction between the potter's clay, represented in the 10 toes, when Rome is divided amongst the 10 smaller nations, and the marble clay which associated with the strength of iron. So when the Church of Rome took over the reins of the Roman Empire, we understand that the clay symbolically represents Church of Biblical Prophecy. Isaiah 64 and verse 8 and Jeremiah 18:6. The 10 toes of iron and the potter's clay is not referring to any church. Rather, it is focusing on the division of the Roman Empire. So we have the Roman Empire, but some kind of kingdom are strong and some is weak, brittle, like the potter's clay. So we definitely knew that 7 of them were strong enough to survive, 3 of them was weak enough to survive, and they were destroyed. They were extinct, basically, they no more. The feet of iron and marble clay, referring to the papacy, is a clear example clay representing a church in Bible prophecy. We have the continuation of the Roman Empire symbolized by the iron in feet. But we notice that it mixed with the Mary clay. It is no longer pagan Rome that rules, but the Church of Rome that rules. Now Rome runs and rules the empire. Therefore, we see that the iron mixed with the Mary church represent the uniting of church and state, and specifically the papacy. Now, Daniel will again review the sequence of the event with the breaking up of Roman being followed by the rule of the Church of Rome. So it's kind of the breaking up of Rome in 476 AD, as the toes of the feet, those 10 smaller kingdoms were part of iron and part of clay. So the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken or brittle. So here we have the reference back to the 10 toes of the image. What we are told is that some of these nations will be strong and some weak. But historically, prophetically, there are 3 of these nations will be destroyed. Right? And whereas thou sawest the iron mixed with Mary clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but they shall not cleave one to another. So no more cleaving one to another. So another event as iron mixed with clay, there is a clay reference back to the Mary clay during the reign of the papacy from 538 to when? 1798. There was an attempt to bring those various nations into one. So there was an attempt to bring all these nations, the 10 toes, the 10 into one. But all those failed. They all attempt failed. Now notice the lesson that has been taught in the same way, that these nations will not cleave one to another. Therefore, iron and clay should not be mixed what? Together. As it would be wrong to mix iron and Mary clay together. It is in a bucket. It is also wrong for church and state to what? Mix together. That's why the founding fathers had church and state separate here. That's why America, when set up, was church and state was separate. Because once church and state come together, what you have is only revenge and war. That's what you have. So, but will church and state come together here again in America? Oh yeah. Oh yeah. As we're very, very close to that. Some have asked, why does the iron continue in these feet and toes of the image? The toe of iron and put as clay representing the breaking up of the Roman Empire and 10 smaller kingdoms, confirming that these 10 separate people groups were within the boundaries of the Roman Empire. They were part of Rome. They did not start off as independent nation states. However, when the Roman Empire fell in 476, these 10 people groups became smaller kingdoms. The feet of iron and Mary clay representing the Church of Rome confirms that the papacy emerges out of the very ruins of Rome. So the papacy came out of the very ruins of Rome. She did not come from another part of the world. Rather, her birthplace was written the Roman Empire. That's why. By 538, she would rule the Roman Empire. Is there really a difference between the Potus clay and the Mary clay? Yeah, I believe so too. While both have a common term clay, one is called Potus clay and the other one Mary clay. The Potus clay is associated with the 10 toes and the Mary clay is associated with those events that follow the breakup of Rome. The 10 toes of iron and Potus clay describe the dividing of the kingdom of Rome. There are 10 toes, there are separated people, groups of nations, while some of these then nations were strong like others were weak like Potus clay. The feet of iron and Mary clay does not focus on the weakness of any nation, rather it focuses on the fact that iron and Mary clay should not mix together. In other words, the Mary clay is not all focused on the breaking up of Rome. Rather, it focuses on the tragedy of mixing church and state together. So that's the tragedy. Not only is the potter's clay and Mary clay two separate distinctive terms, they both focus on two very different things. Verse 44, 45, in the end of the stone, let's take a look at it now. In the end, a stone cut with what? Human hands, destroying all these earthly kingdoms. Whether they are monarchs, republics, ecclesiastical powers, this event is none other than the second coming of Jesus Christ. Christ himself will set up a kingdom that will last forever and ever. So Jesus is coming back to take care of all the noise you see them making there. All the power that they have. All the executive other powers. With the stroke of a pen, they can put you to death. By just the shout of his voice, he can resurrect you and give you a new life. They cannot give you that. You see, that's the beauty about God. The thing about it is that we know that this world is fast coming to an end. We saw in Daniel chapter 2 the vision. All the way down. We start with Babylon and it comes right down to when the stone, Jesus Christ, comes and damage all these kingdoms of the earth. The United States of America, China, Russia, they all will turn to rubble because Jesus is coming to make a new heaven and a new earth to set up his kingdom. Soon that will happen. So all the peace that they're talking about, the day is coming when this world will shake. The Bible says it's going to shake and all these mighty men will run. Some of them is going to go down in the bottom because they have caves. They have caves to go and hide. But down there, he go break up. He's going to shake. He's going to squeeze them to death. He's going to cover them. He's going to rock them down in the bottom. They have no hiding place down here. The only hiding place we have is in Jesus Christ. And I urge peoples of the world to start taking Jesus serious because he is serious. And when he comes, it's going to be serious times for those who reject him. But it will be glorious times for those who love him and serve him. I want to be on the side of Jesus when he comes. Well, don't you? Let's say a word of prayer. Father in heaven, we thank you for today. We thank you for your love. You have showed us from ancient of times to the future when you shall burst the clouds of heaven and come and set up your kingdom. With this narrative, I can take confidence. You can take confidence. The world can take confidence that some changes is coming. Just like you said that the gold is going to be replaced by the silver, going to be replaced by the bronze, going to be replaced by the iron, and then the 10 toes, and then you will come and replace it with your kingdom. The replacement is on, and a number of it has already gone. We are now in the 10 toes. The last thing remaining is for you to come and smash the 10 toes and set up your kingdom. We are on the verge of a new eternity. I pray, God, that you will get us ready. In Jesus' name, amen.